One thing we know about the Rays, they move off starting pitchers right before they have to pay him. Sandy Alcántara, that's going to be the big story here heading into the deadline. Someone that you're very familiar with. You were with him on really 2 playoff runs, right? I mean, you were there his Cy Young year. You saw that up close and personal.
I did.
So you've seen the whole development. You saw the trade, right? So you've seen the whole Sandy experience really up until this latest return.
Yep.
I know his value is not where it once was. Could you see him? I'm just using a hypothetical because this is a name I've kind of had circled, like an Owen Caissie for Chicago Cubs, power hitting lefty, blocked in Chicago, arguably 16 home runs already this year, AAA, like basically a major league ready top. I don't know what he's ranked right now. Let's see what he's ranked in Baseball America, but not a top 10 guy, but say a top 50 guy. Is that the kind of return you could see for a Sandy in his current state? Is it to the point where you're not going to get the value that you need for him based on his current performance and you're better off letting it ride? How do you see the Sandy situation playing out?
I think it's like the worst case scenario for the Marlins because they knew it was a year where there was a high likelihood that they would be talking about Sandy. And you could have talked about it this offseason. You wanted to wait to see it establish health, and it does establish health, which is to me the most important indicator here. Like an establishment of health, you want to go on like outcomes for Sandy and how it's actually gone. That's fine. That's a fair argument. It hasn't gone well out the chute, but the stuff looks good. The stuff is crisp. He's healthy again. And just knowing him and knowing the arc of his entire career and how he competes, how he takes care of his body, like this is something to bet on returning to form, in my opinion. I don't see anything that doesn't feel like, oh, he's lost it or it's not there anymore. Sandy was always due for a correction from the shift age into the non-shift age. You and I have talked about this. The year he wins the Cy Young is the last year of the shift. And Sandy was a high contact, kind of like bowling ball sinker, get off your barrel on the bottom side that caused a lot of ground balls. And that in a shift era, that, he got rewarded for that. Then the next year, I think he saw a regression because we flipped to a no shift. And now the range-based stuff, the same ball that was like getting converted into an out for Sandy in that year is now kind of bleeding through because you're not able to position guys the same way. So I thought he suffered a bounce back from or a regression from that. But I think now I think a team's going to get a really like back to Cy Young ace level performance from whoever acquires him. And that's why I think I don't think that the Marlins should deal him right now because it's like I go back to worst case scenario because he now underperforms in the window that you kind of felt like you had to deal him. So I think my answer would be to hold because you do have a 26 and 27 option. So we go to the other side of this. How many years of remaining control at a number that you're comfortable with? And for the Marlins, it seems, I thought he signed a team-friendly deal when he signed it. Not an insignificant deal. Like it's a good commitment from the Marlins side, but relatively team-friendly that you can always feel you can activate that salary and have that be your number one starter, your number two starter. And I think that still remains true here. So it isn't, we got to get him off the books right now because it's going to be some unknown number next year and unknown number the year after that. You have club options on that through then. And so if you want to be good, you need pitchers like Sandy Alcántara. And if you don't feel that your window is now 26, for example, then you start to like think more about pulling this trigger, right? But if they're ready to be in kind of rebuilding mode again in 26, then I'd still wait for the offseason because you don't have the leverage that you did if he's coming off of a good performance or even a year where he just established full innings health, right? Like teams can see past like a bad ERA is my point. They'll look at the underlying stuff and see where can our situation, where can he fit in here? Where can he be helped? I think teams look at Sandy Alcántara as like a big time bounce back candidate. So I think the Marlins would be selling low here, and I'd be hesitant to do it, but I understand why they'd have to entertain it to the end.
Brandon has a question on a specific prospect, which I'm asking because you may have familiarity with him as an international guy. Everson Pereira from the Yankees, Venezuelan.
Yeah.
Tell us about him.
I scouted Everson in Barquisimeto. I remember seeing him I remember exactly the field actually, Barquisimeto, Venezuela, and he was he was trying out with a couple other players that also ended up getting signed. It's funny because he's there's more power in there than what I had projected back then. He was a little skinny, fast center fielder then, and now he's turned into a grown man. I would have to dig in a little further on if I think that that's an appropriate return. I think instead of locking in on is Everson Pereira like worth it in a trade, I do not know that. But what I would say is, if you are going to deal Sandy Alcántara, you need to feel with a high degree of conviction that what you have coming back is something that's going to impact your near future at the very least. Like I find it hard to believe that they deal him for some like long range, far away prospect. So Pereira fits into this category of major league ready. So I think you want to make sure that you stack that return towards something that can impact you in a shorter term than, like I said, the A-ball prospect. So I think I would want more than that. I'd try to make sure you get one position player and one arm that can credibly get you back into a territory that Sandy got you in. I think that seems like a fair amount of value to target. And so thinking about it more as a 1-for-1 makes less sense to me, unless it's like a surefire player that they don't want to give you because you don't have the leverage to ask for it because he's not coming off of a good season. So you kind of don't have the leverage if you're the Marlins to ask for the premium prospect. And that's why I think hold is the better move, because the duration of the season will tell you that he is, more like the player that we've seen in the past than the player we're seeing right now. And if that's true, that'll be a valuable asset for any team on a cost-controlled 2-year basis. And so I think the value in the offseason is greater than the value right now at the deadline, unless you're a team that feels very bullish that something is not making sense in his starts here with the Marlins, and knowing that it just implemented into what you're doing will yield you the exact result that you need. And that team might, like the Padres, in my opinion, do this. The Padres will use the deadline to make that bigger acquisition because they're betting on a player returning to a more elite form of production. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. But I could see a team like that making a push for that type of player.
And let's say Padres, Cubs, they're planning to be in the postseason. Just certainly at least compete for the postseason multiple times. This is somebody who can not only affect this playoff run, but the next one if you get him now, right? So
right.
It's all someone like this. You've seen him in the playoffs. I mean, if he's hot at that particular time, he can win it for you this year. Or if next year is the time where he heats up, he can win it for you or get you there next year. So it's almost like you get 2 cracks at something that's very elusive with a player like this. If you do acquire him early, knowing that, hey, the performance isn't there, but man, I don't want to be sitting in the playoffs saying, I wish we had him now, and then wait to get him the next year.
I'll say this. I think if you're a contending team in the next year or 2 years, I'll bet they have a pro scout sitting at every one of Sandy's between now, July 7th, and the trade deadline. He has 2 good starts and you feel like this arrow is starting to move in the other direction and you feel like you can get ahead of that. Like I'm saying these things now that I wouldn't deal him, but you never know. Like sometimes pitchers catch fire or catch helium. Remember this happened with Pablo Lopez one year in a year that he did not get dealt. But like the helium that he got toward the deadline, Zach Gallen, this happened with, because they have a good stretch of major league starts. So you can see the acquiring team can almost more plug and play that into their system than needing to project on something, with real distance. And so Sandy has a couple good starts, solid starts, or even like one above average start. I can see that he can create a lot of value for himself over the next 3 starts, more so than a start in April or a start in early May. That's just the nature of the deadline. Like teams, it's human nature. Like teams don't move until they feel compelled to. And then the closer you get to that deadline, man, the amount of deals that get made in the last 20 minutes is really like you have all this time, because right now you can make trades. You just literally wait and it's just a leverage clock running out kind of thing. And that has a way of just shifting narratives overall. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sandy gains helium at the trade deadline and just gets you the return that you want. And then you feel like you have to do it. I don't like seeing good players leave. Like you're trying to find players just like this. And then you have him for a few more years, but you're playing this like really long game of like, oh, is it smart? Should I get the future value now? I think teams should be incentivized to keep the players that they've developed and that they, are impacting their team. But I see the argument of the return might be too good. So we'll see.